There were once 3 soldiers who fought very hard for the king, but they were paid so badly they could hardly afford to eat. And so the 3 of them decided that the only possible thing to do was to desert and leave the army. The army was camped, and they thought, the army will move out tomorrow. So the 3 of them went and hid in a wheat field. And they hid in the middle of the wheat field. But the army didn't move. And the whole of the next day, still the army didn't move. So the 3 of them were there in the middle of the wheat field, getting really hungry. What were they to do? If they went back to the army, they would be hanged as deserters. If they stayed in the wheat field, they would die of hunger. At that point, a dragon landed in the wheat field, a great fiery dragon. The dragon spoke to them and said, I can fly you over the army. I can fly you to safety. But after 7 years, your souls will be mine. For the dragon was, of course, the devil in another form. The 3 soldiers had no choice. Either they would hang on the gallows as deserters, starve to death in the wheat field, or agree to escape with the dragon. So the 3 of them climbed up onto the dragon's back, flew safely over the army camp, landed on the other side. And it was then that the dragon appeared in his true form as old Nick himself. And he produced a book and a whip. And the devil said, you can whip up money. I'll give you this small whip. Whenever you need money, simply crack the whip, and money will appear from fresh air. You have 7 years to travel, to be happy. At the end of those 7 years, you will be mine. But at the end of those 7 years, I will tell you a riddle. If you can solve the riddle, you will be free. With that, old Nick disappeared, presumably in a puff of smoke, because that is traditional. And so the 3 soldiers travelled. They could whip up as much money as they needed, or more than they needed. They had fine clothes made for them. They ate the best food. They were never cold, they were never hungry. They slept every night in warm feather beds. But as the 7 years was drawing to an end, they began to get worried. They remembered they had signed the devil's book. One of the soldiers, in any group of people, there's always one eternal optimist. One of the soldiers said, I will be able to solve the riddle. Yet his companions looked sad. We are doomed. An old woman saw the 3 of them sitting there and noticed how dejected 2 of them were and said, why are you so sad? So they told her their whole story. She said, be of good heart. One of you needs to go through the wood. Walk through the wood, and there you will find a cliff which has fallen in. And so it's become a cave. Go inside the cave, and there you will find someone who will help you. And of course 2 of the soldiers didn't believe her, but one thought, yes. So he went into the wood and he found the cliff that had fallen in and become a cave, and he walked inside, and there was a very old woman. And he told her his story, and she said, I am the devil's grandmother. He tells me everything. She lifted up a stone, and under the stone was a cellar. She said, hide down here and listen. You will learn the answer to the riddle. So the soldier hid in the cellar, and after some time old Nick appeared, and his grandmother gave him a meal. And they talked, as of course you do to your grandmother. She said, how many souls have you gained today? And old Nick said, hasn't been a good day today, but I have 3 soldiers lined up. I will have their souls soon. And the grandmother said, soldiers, really? They're tough people. It might be more difficult than you think. And old Nick said, they will never guess the riddle that I have set for them, for the answer is that there is a monkey floating in the North Sea, and that will be your roast. There is a spoon made from a whale's rib bone, and that will be your spoon. There's a wine cup made from a hollow horse's hoof. That will be your wine cup. They will never guess. They will be mine. So when old Nick had left, the soldier climbed up out of the cellar and thanked the grandmother for her help. And he went and found his 2 companions. So when the 7 years was completely ended, and old Nick came to them, he said, when you join me in hell, I will serve you a meal. He said to the first soldier, what will be your roast? And he said, monkey that lies in the North Sea. And the devil stamped his foot. He said to the second soldier, what will be your spoon? He said, my spoon will be made from the rib bone of a whale. And the devil stamped his foot again. And he said to the third soldier, what will be your wine glass? And the third soldier said, a hollow horse's hoof. So with that, the devil, angry as ever, flew away. The 3 soldiers had kept the whip so they could whip up as much money as they needed. So of course, this is your line. Okay, you can do this. They lived in peace and contentment, with no hunger, and they were never cold for, come on, the rest of their days. I don't know how old that story is. I mean, obviously a lot of the Grimm brothers stories do seem to be very old. A lot of them seem to have echoes of Norse myth, but some of the soldier stories I think sound more like the kind of thing. If you've read any of Bernard Cornwell's Sharp series, and I think they're reasonably authentic. You can certainly imagine soldiers being cold, hungry, disillusioned, needing to, but a story like that would certainly appeal to them, wouldn't it? We know that Jacob and Wilhelm certainly spoke to one ex-soldier. You can certainly imagine how bitter people would be. The Napoleonic Wars just went on for such a long time, and of course the first edition of they didn't call them fairy tales, they called them folk tales, was published 1815, the year of the Battle of Waterloo. There you are. So I don't know if that's of interest to historians or not, really, as to what life would really have been like for a common soldier. There we are. Anyway, I hope to see you again soon.